Would you like to go live but not actually match it? Hey, look who showed up.
Hey, anytime you say cool story, bro, like to me, I get ready for the next 10 stories you tell to whip that out. So just so you're prepared.
It's only on timing. I'm only looking at the clock. Hey, we all have somebody that has endured or is going through and enduring cancer. So we have a 5-time survivor because he wasn't happy to do it just the one time and beat it. He just figured he just got addicted to ringing the bell. I don't know. Bill C. Potts.
Bill C. Potts, author of the book Up for the Fight, The Essential Guide to Navigating Your Cancer Journey from a 5-time survivor. He's also held marketing leadership positions at a lot of different and very cool organizations, including the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, which you might remember from the Dolphin Tale movies.
That's what I'm going to ask about. Dolphins.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry, Gorgone, boom shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
I'm so excited because Bill is genuinely so nice. Not like we have people on, I'm like, well, that guy was a dick. But like, I know for a fact, well, rarely, that Bill is very nice. He is kind. And in the years that I've known him, because I interviewed him for Marketing Profs once, years and years ago, he actually didn't mention that he was going through cancer at the time, that, it's like this ongoing struggle. So I'm very interested.
You just knew him as this cool marketing guy
who did amazing things for the Clearwater Marine Aquarium and just had such an amazing energy and outlook. Like you really enjoy being around him. And it never occurred to me that he might be addressing something like serious illness. Like it just didn't, and he did not bring it up. So I want to ask him about that too, because in the guidebook, I imagine you want to kind of balance seeking support during the course of your treatment and stuff with wanting to not always talk about cancer. So that's my
yeah, that's tricky. Let's drag Bill out here then.
Okay.
Hi, Bill. How are you? Welcome on board the show.
Chris and Kerry, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be with you guys this morning. And Kerry and I go way back, so it's good to see you again, Kerry.
I'm so excited. I saw your book on LinkedIn. So anyone who's not following Bill Potts on LinkedIn, you can find him on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, Bill C. Potts. So I have so many questions. I don't even know what first, I guess, would be, you had these marketing leadership roles, like chief marketing officer level roles. And I did not know until I saw the book on LinkedIn that you had cancer even one time, never mind struggled and beaten it 5 times. So how did you manage to have such a high profile, high stakes, high responsibility job and manage all that in terms of health and family and all the things that entails?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, no, that's a great question. My mindset has always been is to make cancer just a part of my life, not a major part of it. And so until the book came out, I kept it a secret. So most people really didn't know about it. And I kept that a secret for a particular reason. I wanted to be able to focus on my work. I didn't want my family to be distracted with a lot of cancer talk. So there was a small group of people that knew what I was going through, but that large group was pretty small. And to answer your question about how did I manage it all at the same time, quite challenging. So I've had cancer actually 6 times, 5 times beating it so far, working on number 6, but it is a full-time job to beat cancer. And it takes an immense amount of effort. The cancer team is enormous, not just your care team, but for example, oncologist, primary care physician, chemo impacts so many other things. So I've got a dentist, I've got a cardiologist, a dermatologist, eye doctors, I've got nutritionists, dietitians. It's a big team to manage. But I've been lucky in that I've had periods where I've been in remission. I've had thyroid cancer, which is cured, and I've got an incurable lymphoma, which I've had 4 times. The longest I've been in remission is almost 6 years. So I had a 6-year gap that I could not focus on that. But then the last time was 11 months before it came back again in 2020. So that window was pretty short. So it's been infinitely challenging to try to go through cancer treatment while you're keeping it a secret and still working. And there were times I was traveling constantly for my job at IRONMAN, and I was carrying medications with me that I would inject in the airport bathroom and put those needles in, like you see those needle holders in the airports, and I just would have to deal with it. This last round, though, with lymphoma, which came back in 2020, the treatment was too much. I just couldn't keep it a secret anymore, and I was just beat up so much, and I needed to rest so much, and I looked different, that the disclosure there was a little bit broader.
Yeah, I imagine people seeing, if they'd witnessed you taking your medication, were probably like, "Look at him, he's on drugs." Like, look at
Yeah,
him.
it's and I would go through security. I flew to Houston. I was being treated at MD Anderson until 2020, and the pandemic pushed me to Mayo in Jacksonville, Florida. But there was one time I flew to Houston 23 times in 24 months while I was still working full time. I would tie those trips onto my next leg of my work trip. I'd grab the medications. One I could inject myself, and I went through airport security like a million times. This is like in its little cooler, and not once did security say, "What are you carrying?" I guess they respect the fact that if you're carrying it in this little special package in ice with needles connected to it, that they don't need to ask.
But that brings up a whole thought process, though, to your point. Like okay, let's tie it to current events. There's a certain royal person who suddenly had to divulge a problem, and like they were harassing her because she just hadn't shown up Kate Middleton in public, and all of a sudden a lot of people had to kind of like swallow some things they were saying because they were, I don't know, there was a sort of presumption that they had a right to royal people's privacy. What you just pointed out, like going through an airport, having to, like, your business is out there. And like you said, it's not like you want to be defined by it, but it's a rather redefining kind of experience. How do you balance all that? Like, how do you balance the, I need to be private with, oh my gosh, this is really cutting into everything about my world. This battle is a full-time job on top of my other stuff.
Yeah, it is infinitely challenging. And I'm not sure I even have this piece right. I disclose where I need to disclose. Even in my career, most of the people I worked with didn't even know. And I'd leave on a Thursday night to fly to Houston from here in Tampa, and I would go do my treatments, and I'd recover in Houston on Saturday and limp onto the plane on Sunday, and wind up in the office on Monday, and people didn't even know. And I was lucky enough that I was able to hide most of it, because I didn't lose my hair. The last time it thinned up pretty good, but for some miraculous reason, my hair seems to be staying in. And fatigue, weight gain. I really had to work on for work in particular, the chemo brain piece is extremely real for cancer patients. And so having to try to be high level executive when your thinking is a little bit off took a lot of practice. So I would literally practice in my office before I go to these big meetings and make sure I understood the numbers and had all sorts of cheat sheets so I could get away with being off by 10 or 15% and people wouldn't know. And I'd also would listen a lot more, because it's taking me a chance to catch up to what's being said. Before my mouth opened, I had a chance to ponder it, which is probably a good life lesson anyway.
So maybe you're not actually nice. Maybe I just thought you were because you listened so well.
No, I'm really nice. Yeah. I think
you something you just said there when you said 20-ish plus flights and all that. I was just thinking, wow, that's another thing we don't really talk about a whole lot. We don't really think about the fact that there's a lot of expenses to this. So you had an article a little while back on your site talking about money tips for people with cancer, because it's an investment, which is an awful way to think about that. But there's so many things you have to consider. You laid out quite a bunch of them. Do you find that that's one of the things that, like, did you have much insight into this before you started dealing with all these things?
No, I really didn't have any idea. And so when I started this journey 20 years ago, I started catching up to the impact of cancer on the financial health of patients. And it's some ginormous number, like a quarter of cancer patients wind up in some serious financial situation, including bankruptcy. And it's not just the cost of the deductibles and the co-pays. it's the cost of travel. A lot of people have to quit or lose their jobs because of cancer. It becomes a real challenge to manage the budget. And so the first thing, if you're diagnosed with any sort of big health issue, including cancer, there's going to be a financial cost to it. So get ready for it. So really upfront, I had to start changing our spending and start having to really watch the money more carefully than probably we did before, because it's the expenses that aren't medical that really add up. I mean, I had to buy new clothes because my body changed. Just you can imagine the cost of travel to Houston, how that all adds up. And there is support out there. Leukemia Lymphoma Society right up front gave me a grant. Southwest Airlines, shout out to them, through MD Anderson. They helped me out on some airfare. But the burden falls on the patient to start managing that up front.
Now, when during all of this, while you're working full time and at pretty important job that you can't just like disappear from without someone noticing, and seeing to your treatment and making these trips back and forth, do you say, "All right, now's a good time to write a book"?
Yeah, it never was on my radar screen. So I woke up from surgery on September 17th, 2020. So this is in the heat of the pandemic. So I wake up from surgery to remove a really painful cancerous tumor that's below my right hip. And the pain was off the charts. And I woke up in that recovery room with Jen, the recovery room nurse, just the two of us. And I was having an emotional breakdown, like full-fledged, not a few tears coming down my face, full-fledged breakdown. And Jen reaches over and grabs my hand and leans right in and says, "Hey, Bill, what's wrong?" And what came out of my mouth actually surprised me. I had no idea. And I told her this. I said, "Jen, I just woke up from my 4th surgery for lymphoma. Mine's incurable. I was in remission 11 months ago. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer 2 months ago. I had thyroid cancer less than 20 years ago. I know what's coming with this treatment for lymphoma. I was wrong, by the way. It was way worse than I thought was going to happen. And I'm done. I'm done. I'm not up for the fight anymore. I'm throwing in the towel." And she's like, "Whoa." So she smartly calls in the pastor who I'd actually met with before the surgery. I didn't remember it because by then I was already drugged up. And she comes in and she goes, "Hey, Bill, let's talk through it." So I told her my life story. And then she says to me, "Bill," and I told her, I said, "I'm done." And she goes, "Bill, you need to think about all the reasons why you should fight." And so over the course of an hour, we have this conversation. My wife's freaking out because she's wondering, where is Bill? He's in the recovery room and she's waiting and nothing's happening except me having this emotional breakdown, which she doesn't know about. And I said, "Okay, I have these reasons to fight. I'm going to fight for my family. I'm going to fight for my friends. I'm going to fight for my meaningful work. And I'm going to fight to make God proud." I'm like, whoo, so it's like my heart changed. And in the course of that hour conversation, I went from throwing in the towel, I'm done, to, she reminded me of all the reasons why I should fight. And then, Kerry, to answer your question in the book, I think I'm done with this conversation. She's getting ready to get up and leave. And she leans in, nose to nose. She goes, "Okay, Bill, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to turn your pain into purpose and write a book to help others." So I thought about it and I told her I would. Now, remember, I'm coming off of fentanyl. I'm coming off of morphine. I had a lot of reasons why not to stick to that commitment or to forget about it. But at our house, at the Potts house, a deal's a deal. And I committed, especially to a pastor, so I needed to do it. And I got lucky and found a publisher that was all on board, basically to write a book like What to Expect When You're Expecting, but for cancer. And so I wrote it, but I wrote it on an accelerated timetable while I was going through chemotherapy because I wasn't sure I was going to live. And I wanted to make sure it got done. And it got done quickly. And it came out, it was finished 7 months before it came out in September of 2022. And I'm telling you, Kerry and Chris, it wasn't just beating the cancer that was my concern. It was COVID, because my immune system, I had none. And my chance of beating COVID for during treatment and probably a year to year and a half after it was 45%. So it was kind of lonely. But anyway, the book came out, and I am so thankful that Pastor Tanya reconnected me with my whys, and glad she told me to do the book, because the book has given me purpose that I didn't have before, and really is turning my pain into purpose. And the impact has been jaw dropping. The book is not just changing lives, it is saving lives. And I'm hearing this from patients that get a second opinion, it saves their life, or they've given up. I've heard this multiple times, or they've given up hope and read the book, and then now they have hope. If Bill can beat it 5 times, I can beat it once. And the hope piece, don't know why I didn't see it coming, guys. I had no idea when I wrote the book, and the hope seems to be one of the dominant themes.
So I'm listening to you talk, and I'm thinking, where in all of this is, like, it must be difficult to balance self-care with the needs of your family, who's obviously going through, it's emotional for them too, but at the same time, you're dealing with it physically, emotionally, and then the need to balance your kind of self-advocacy with trusting the medical team that you've put together. Like, you're going to Houston for a reason. It's because you trust that team. So how do you balance your needs for self-care and advocacy with the needs to kind of put yourself in the hands of a trusted medical team?
Boy, yeah, another great question. That's a hard one. So yeah, owning your journey is key. Picking your care team is key. Prioritize. I had to prioritize living over everything else. And so the kids, they're always a priority, but having their dad alive was a higher priority. So we kept a lot of it from them, the details of the risk, and until they got old enough to really understand it. By the time they got to high school, here's some of the pictures. At the time they got to high school, they kind of understood what the risk I was going through were. And we made sure we got them all the support and help they need, that they had a good social network, that they had professional help if they needed it. So I didn't really have a very good balance on that, because I had to focus on just trying to stay alive.
There's other parts of your life. That's one of the things that is also tricky about this whole universe, is that there's Bill, who isn't, Bill, who's dealing with cancer. You had a very active sports career. You were doing a lot of other stuff. It's got to be like, you got to every now and again just talk about like what your favorite TV show is or something, right? Like, you just can't possibly only ever be thinking about this, I have to imagine.
Yeah, it's true. And like, even on the sports side, when I did Ironman Texas in 2011, there was a purpose to that. That wasn't just do it just to say I was an Ironman athlete. The purpose on that was, this is 3 years after stage 3 lymphoma, my first diagnosis. And the idea there, I worked for Ironman and I helped put that race in Texas, but I was doing that for one reason, and that was to prove to my kids that no matter what happens in life, if you put your mind to it and you work hard at it, anything is possible. And that was why I did it. And when they were there at the finish line, 13 hours and 41 minutes after I started when the sun came up, and I finished after it set, and they were there at the finish. I'm like, okay, I accomplished that goal. I think they all get it, right? And so balancing the rest of your life with the cancer stuff is kind of challenging, but the cancer stuff has really kind of changed how I spend my time and my purpose. So when I ran the Boston Marathon, I was running it with the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, jersey on, because that's another sort of blood cancer. So it changes what you do because of kind of who I am.
For you to be chief marketing officer at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, where Winter the dolphin was, had to have been, like, I would think, kind of surreal for you, because you're hearing people's stories where they're telling you about their challenges and how she's given them hope, and you're going through your own at the same time. And I hope, taking encouragement from that. But what was that like for you? Kind of that day-to-day emotional journeys of other people while you're going through your own.
it was truly day to day. It was like drinking from a fire hose. So every day it was a kid in a wheelchair. Every day it was a kid fighting cancer. Every day was a wounded warrior. But I particularly connected, to your point, to the cancer journey. And so one piece of advice I have for people that are dealing with a cancer patient is to never talk about your cancer, right? Or your experiences, or people that you know. Keep it focused on them. I am telling you, I had so many emotional experiences with kids with cancer that there was times I would just go back to my office and I close the door and I'm like, and the tears start coming down your face, because you can relate so much and to what they're going through, but not because they're kids. And, for a kid to have as a bucket list item to come meet Winter the dolphin, my job as the CMO was to make sure that we gave them the best experience of their life, and something that they would give them hope, and also, boost their spirits. And for every cancer patient that we gave the exposure to and got to meet Winter, most of those stories have a happy ending, but not all of them do. And this is a constant challenge that I deal with, because of the book. I deal with cancer patients every day. And so I deal with cancer patients in all different various stages of their journey. And I have to deal with the emotions of when the ending isn't happy. And that's, honestly, it's kind of a burden, but I'm learning to deal with it.
That is something you talk about in the book too, is emotional resilience. In your case, I don't know if what you're doing is building your emotional resilience or like breaking it down. What are some ways that people can work on building up their emotional resilience if they're facing cancer?
Yeah, it starts really with the body, is taking the best care of your body that you can. So my wife jokes that it took me 5 times getting cancer before I figured out the diet piece. But, I got the diet dialed in beautifully with the help of a nutritionist and dietitian. I also, for the mental and emotional health piece, I make sure I exercise every day, exercise before this call. I can't do the same things I used to do, but I exercise and do what I can. I make sure I build a big social network. I make sure I build a big social network where we don't talk about cancer. The folks I hang out with usually know, let's not bring it up unless he wants to talk about it, which is almost never. And also getting outside support. I've leaned in on my faith a lot more than I had before. Faith leaders have helped me. Support groups have helped me. Deep breathing has helped me. Grounding has helped me with the environment. Just sitting outside, vitamin D therapy in the sun, all those are ways that I try to cope with it. But it is a roller coaster. There are days I wake up and I'm like, what? Why am I so sad today? I didn't even see that one coming. And especially when I have to go to Mayo now for testing, it's called scanxiety. And it's like, oof. But when I walk in the door to Mayo, I'm okay, because I start treating it like my job, and I can turn off the emotions. But up until then, it's like my wife knows, just like, let's not talk to Bill for the 2 days before this appointment. We'll drive that 4 hours and we'll just listen to country. Which, by the way, is probably the wrong genre to be listening to.
That's fair. Yeah. Maybe try hyperpop.
Yeah, hyperpop, anything but country.
There you go. Well, I was thinking about the fact that your kind of Ironman background and all that. It's a little crazy how many times you've rung the bell too. Like, what are you? You're sort of an overachiever in everything you do, Bill. Is that kind of the theme I'm getting there? You figured might as well ring it many times, not just one.
Oh yeah. Sadly, that's one I wish I wouldn't be an overachiever on. But
yeah,
the bell ringing is really interesting, because when I was at Mayo the last time, I didn't want to ring the bell. I literally just been so beat up, and there's a lot of other patients around. And so I told the Mayo staff, they're like, are you going to ring the bell? This is your last chemotherapy. And I'm like, and I've been doing it for 6 months. And I'm like, no. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I don't want to be that guy that's ringing the bell while there's a lot of people on the other side of that wall that are hearing the bell that never get to ring it. And they're like, oof. They're like, no, but what the bell does is it gives them hope. And it's a way of thanking the staff. And you saw in that video, the amount of staff that came out, way more than took care of me, because they want to be a part of the celebration that somebody made it through and got to ring the bell. And so for that reason, I encourage everybody to ring the bell. It's an emotional experience for everybody involved. So yeah, ring it as often as you can. If you got to go through it 1 time or 5 times like me, ring the stinking bell.
I have to ask Bill C. Potts on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, but on Instagram, Bill C. Potts 93.
Yeah, did someone beat you to it? What happened?
No, somehow I have Bill C. Potts, but for some reason I couldn't merge the account. So 93 is my lucky number. That's the number I race in, and the number I'm trying to reach as my goal age. So we'll see. It's going to have to be Bill Potts, 12-time cancer survivor, 15-time cancer survivor. But hey, maybe I can overachieve there too, Chris.
Just keep ringing that bell.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized I'm on mute that whole time. We'll take it.
Were you talking on mute again?
Only to myself. I just have so many thoughts. The sad truth, Bill, is that we all have so many friends going through this. Like there's reasons why people have those curse word cancer kind of hashtags and things like that, because cancer's a jerk. I had a friend who just got through a very aggressive breast cancer. Felt like they were done. Everything had been cleared. Everything was fine. And even something as annoying as a staph infection is now messing up, the things they don't tell you about parts again. So you're right. I mean, persistence it's tricky. Like when you said about that breakdown, when you said about that crisis of faith for a moment, there's just so many things that people need to eat on the way to this. And I sure don't mean it in that eating to get rid of it thing that we talked about briefly.
Like nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition. Like, a lot of people is, I guess, where I was alluding to there. Bill, let's make a whole different world for a minute. People say, thanks for all that help. Great. We got it, Bill. What would be the next topic? What would you pivot to? What's a topic that's not based on all the stuff that you wish you didn't have to be burdened with talking about? Is there any other angle under the sun that you'd go after if they just hit you with the magic permission wand and said, go for it?
Yeah, I mean, I would. It ties into it, but it's for everybody. It's trying to live a healthy, active lifestyle to prevent health issues, whatever they are, right? Cancer is just one piece of it. But if you look at cancer and the data on that the amount of cancers that are caused by lifestyle decisions is dramatic. If you can start with smoking, right, which is clearly a kind of almost a 1-to-1. Not everybody that smokes gets lung cancer, but lung cancer is caused by this smoke. A diet that can make such a huge difference on all sorts of different cancers. But it's not just the cancers, it's all of health. And so where I think if I could wave my magic wand, I'd shift the whole conversation from treatment to prevention. And I'd say on a national basis, let's focus on taking care of ourselves better so that we can avoid these ginormous healthcare costs simply by preventing them from happening. And it's so frustrating to me to see all the conversation, and particularly in cancer, around treatments and drugs and breakthroughs and immunotherapy and CAR T and radiation and chemotherapy. I get it, okay? But if we put that same amount of energy on, it's going to be a lot better if you don't get it, and here's the 10 things that you can do not to get cancer, then all of a sudden it shifts the entire paradigm, and the cancer costs go down, not because the cost of fighting cancer go down, but because fewer people are getting it. And it's the opposite of what's happening. Colon cancer is ratcheting up in younger consumers right now through the roof. They don't know why, but we do know why. It's going to be diet, and it's going to be lifestyle. It's going to be those things. And the average age of a cancer patient in the U.S., 61, but that's coming down. Pediatric cancer is still pretty rare, less than 15,000 cases in the U.S., but the numbers aren't going down. So maybe survival rates go up, but numbers are going up too on number of people diagnosed. So let's shift the conversation. So you can tell I got passion behind that one.
Good. It's exciting. Hey, well, we've come to the part of the show where we ask every single guest the one question the same, which is what goes in your backpack? This could be something physical. It could be something metaphorical. We actually just had a show on Monday where we took some of the things back out of the backpack.
That was for April Fool's Day, the trash bag show.
Love it.
We did an April Fool's one. So Sir Mix-a-Lot has filled this backpack. So has Sister Ann Flanagan from the Daughters of St. Paul. Colette from Colette's Cookies. Oh, thanks, Dad. That's my pop who comes and watches the show with my mom.
That's awesome.
Kerry, what's an example of something physical we could add to the backpack?
An avocado.
Avocado's great. Water bottle's great. Stay hydrated.
I want to say it was Saida Trujillo put the avocado in the backpack. She volunteers with Clowns Without Borders.
Clowns Without Borders, which is a subgroup to Doctors Without Borders.
It is exactly what you think it is. It is a charity where they bring clowns.
Fly into bad areas and bring a little laughter back.
At the request of the community, they don't just like parachute in and make you take.
They don't just show up.
Yeah.
Those are mimes. Kerry, what is something metaphorical you could add to a backpack?
Oh, man. Well, the oral knots took something out of the backpack. They took ego out of the backpack because they wanted to be successful in creative projects, and ego got in the way. So that's the one I'm promoting today.
So Bill C. Potts, what do you think we should add to the backpack today?
Well, we'll do a physical and metaphorical. I would probably throw a lot of fruit and vegetables into the backpack because that's going to focus on wellness. I saw a comment from Leslie. Right on, Leslie. It should be about wellness, and appreciate that comment. And on the metaphorical side, this is what drives me. It's hope, and I hope that they will cure my cancer. And everybody has hope. I talk to cancer patients all day, every day, and I have hope that they'll be able to beat it. And hope is really what we all need. And if we focus on hope, whatever the situation, whether it's political or physical or personal or whatever, hope is a pretty powerful emotion.
Everyone go get the book Up for the Fight.
Yeah. Make sure
hey, nice pickup on the hope there. That was impressive. You grabbed that's awesome.
It's almost like I run a show like this. But yeah, thank you. I always appreciate it. Listen, normally I just got done telling you backstage when I was warming you up for what to do that we end the show with something kind of dumb or whatever. But I lost my grandmother to cancer, and I lost her at a time where there were less hopes in the world. It was the late 80s, early 90s, and that was tricky because the solutions were worse than the trying to recover, like the radiation and everything like that was awful. And I'm pretty sure everyone on this show has lost at least one relative to cancer. So it's an important episode. So I can't end it with a joke. I'm just not like that. I could, however, still